So let's start this. So yesterday we have started exception handling. So any doubts from yesterday's class, guys? Okay, fine. So we have seen the basics of exception handling, right? So today we are going to see a lot of combinations and few new concepts. Okay, so let's start. Okay, I would like to just give you a small recap of yesterday's thing, right? So so be alert, guys. Today class is going to be interactive. So you guys will be answering quite a few things. Okay, so just to give a recap, as I said, any unwanted flow, okay, any unwanted flow is called an exception, right? So there are some built-in exceptions as I have shown yesterday. So these are the different classes of exception. For example, if you are trying to divide any number by zero, you will get zero division error, right? So that's an exception. So that is exception is not a separate exception. It is a part of some arithmetic error. Okay, so it's a part of this arithmetic error exception. Similarly, you will have floating point error, overflow error. So all these three are a part of arithmetic error. Some attribute error is under exception. End of the file is under exception. Name, lookup. So a lot of exceptions. Okay, file not found, key error, etc., etc. Okay, so the system exit, so keyboard input error. So all these are different exceptions, and everything is part of the actual one basic class called as base exception. Okay, so now if you see, yeah, so exception base for all exceptions. Okay, arithmetic error, overflow, maximum limit. So when you will get this, for example, keyboard input error is usually when the user interrupts the operation by pressing Control C. So there you will get an exception, key error, key not found, etc., etc. Okay, so then we have seen what we have seen. We have seen try except. Okay, so to handle this exception, we are using different blocks, right? These are called as try. They're like try block. We got except block. Okay, so what does this do? So whatever the code you want to write, okay, that one you want to execute, you are going to write it in try block, right? You are going to write it in try block, and for that you need to write in corresponding except block. Okay, corresponding except block. Fine. So that's a basic example we have seen. So just to give a recap, okay, so this is a simple general except block. Okay, that means you are writing a try block. Okay, if at all any exception happens over here. So as of now, what is an exception? So if at all it gives an error, that means if you get an error, okay, something like this. Okay, if the Python is trying to print that, okay, to the console, and if you don't handle this, what happens? It will stop like this. Okay, just like how if yeah, this is without try and except, right? So if I just execute this, what is happening? You are getting an exception over here. Okay, you are getting an exception over here, and Python is printing out that error to us to the console. And what is happening? And the program flow is getting stopped. How I can say that? Because as you can see, the next statement, good morning, is not getting printed. Where I can say good morning, no. So this is an issue because, as I said yesterday multiple times, the flow should not be stopped at any cost. Okay. So now here the print, to handle this scenario, to show a simple example. So I'm writing some code over here in the try block. Okay, this is try block. Okay, and in the except block, I'm writing, if it is an error, I'm printing just error, and I'm printing good morning. Okay, now if you see this, here also you have error. Okay, here also you have, it is an error because you cannot divide integer by string. Okay, you will get an error, but you are able to handle it because if at all some error you are getting, so the control will go into this except block. Okay, the control is going to the except block and it is printing this error, this print error, and the flow is not getting break. Because why? How? Because it is again continuing the flow, and you can see this good morning is getting printed over here. Okay, so even if you give, okay, if there is no exception, for example, if there is no exception, obviously it will just print this. Because there is no exception, there is no need to enter this except block. Okay, that's why you're not, it is not printing error, and the flow is getting continued with the other part. Okay, even if you have some zero division error, still it is going into this except error and it is printing the other. Okay, so the flow is not getting broke. Okay, so this is a general except. That means whatever the exception you get here, okay, whatever the exception you get here, it is always going into this except block. Okay, it is always going into this except block. Okay, so this is general try except. Okay. But now if you come over here, and as we have different classes over here, right? So all these are exceptions. Okay. So when you have these many exceptions, why to go for general except, right? You can go for a specific exception. You can write specific except block. Okay. So how? So now let's say you are having 10 by 0. Okay. Let's say you definitely know that in this step there is a chance of getting zero division error. Okay, your chance of getting zero division error. Then what you are going to do, you are going to write specifically except zero division error. Okay, you are not writing a general except, you are writing a specific zero division error. Okay, in that case what this will do, this will handle, or this can handle only zero division error. Okay, it cannot handle any other exceptions. Okay, let's see that. Okay, so now I'm printing here. So if at all there is no exception, okay, if at all there is no exception, obviously it is printing what? It is printing this 10 by 20 is 0.5. Next it is printing. Okay, the always the flow starts from try. Okay, see, always the flow starts from try. If there is an exception, then it will go to exception block and the flow continues. Okay, again the flow starts from trying. If there is no exception, obviously it will not enter exception and it will go to the next block. Okay, that will be the flow. So now here 10 by 20 there is no exception. Okay, obviously there is no need to enter this, so it will print the remaining curve. Okay, for example you are having 10 by 0. Okay, now see, it started over here 10 by 0. Okay, it understood there is an exception, right? Here it got an exception, 0. What exception it got? It got zero division error exception. Okay, it got zero division error exception. Okay, so now what it will do, it will search if at all there are any matching except block. Okay, it will search for if there are any matching except block for this exception. Okay, so yeah, it is able to find, because we have written specifically except zero division error. Okay, it is matching over here, so the control will come here. Okay, and it is printing zero error, it is printing zero error. Okay, and the flow is continuing, Okay, that's fine, because you are having a zero division error in the try block. First point. Second point is you are having a corresponding zero division error to handle this exception. That's why it is working fine. Okay, but let's say you don't have this. Okay, let's say you are having some 10. I'm dividing 10 integer by 10 string. Okay, so what is this? Is this a zero division error? No, this is not a zero division error. But what exception you have? You have only zero division error exception. This can handle only zero division error. It cannot handle this type of exceptions. Okay, now what will happen? Let's see. See, now what is happening here? What exception does we get? It internally got type error exception. Okay, type error exception. That means it cannot divide integer by string. Okay, so that is a type error exception it got. So what it will do, the moment it got type error exception, it will check if there are any corresponding matching type error exceptions block. Okay, so it is checking here. We have only one except, which is not a type error, it's a zero division error. That means, oh, I don't have any corresponding except block. So there is no entry for it to enter any except block. Okay, here we have only one except block. So there is no entry for it because the type error is not matching with this zero error. So this cannot handle, this except block cannot handle this type error because this is zero division error. Fine. So there is no other except block for it, right? So obviously we cannot handle this exception. Then what it will do? It is terminating abnormally. Okay. Listen my words, guys. This is important. So this is abnormal termination. Abnormal termination. Okay. That means what? It is printing the error. If the error is reaching us, okay, if the error is coming to user, right, that means what? That means Python is not able to handle it, right? Python failed to handle it. That means we did not write the sufficient code for the Python to handle the exception. So that's why it is printing the error to us. As you can see, it is printing here to the console. So that means when you are getting an error to the console, that means what? All the other steps will not be executed because it got an error here, the program flow stops. So that's why you cannot see the print NN getting executed. So that's why this is called abnormal termination. Agree? But if the same thing, for example, I will show you side by side. So see here. So I'm printing here. So if at all I'm doing this, okay, if at all I'm doing this, see here also, see the important point here is here also there is an exception. What is this exception? Zero division exception. That means here also we have an error. Here also we have an issue, right? Now here also, now here also we have an issue, but this is what, this is a type error, right? So the difference here is, here we have the corresponding except block to handle this exception. So that's why, even though an exception is raised, it is we are able to handle it in this block, and we are printing zero error over here, and the next line of the code, okay, this print is out of this try and except, right? So it is able to handle this. Okay, what is this? This is normal termination. Okay, normal termination. When does normal termination occurs? When the exceptions are handled. Okay, when all the exception or one exception, how many exceptions are there, all those are handled, okay, perfectly, then it will be normal termination. That means there are no errors, it is printing. How you will know it's a normal termination? If at all the error is not coming till us, okay, it is not reaching us, Python itself is handle those, sorry, Python itself is handling those, then it's a normal termination. We are able to handle all the exceptions. Okay, but here, over here, we are having a type exception over here, because we cannot divide integer by string. But okay, getting exception is fine, we are there to handle, but are we handling this? No, we are not handling, because we are getting type exception, but we don't have any corresponding type error except block. We have only zero division error, so this cannot handle this. So obviously what it will have, if I try to run this, it is giving an error, unsupported operand. So here the error is reaching us. Okay, here the error is reaching us. Okay, here the error is not reaching us. In the both the scenarios there is error. Here also we have error, here also we have error, but here the error is not reaching us. That's why it is normal termination. Here the error is reaching us, so that's why this is abnormal termination. How, why you are getting abnormal termination? Because exceptions are not handled. How you know the exceptions are not handled? Because we are able to see the error. Okay, so this is a basic concept on which the other concepts will be built now. Okay, so now I want a confirmation from each one of you whether this is clear. That means whether try except block is clear, whether the general except block is clear, and whether a specific except block is clear, and more importantly, whether you guys are comfortable with normal termination and abnormal termination. Let me know, guys.
Yes, sir, clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Srish, you are trying to say something? Hmm? Okay, right? Okay, perfect. So now let's go and see some examples. Okay, so as I was saying, yeah, so let's see. Okay, see now. So let's say you're able to see my screen, I hope. So be interactive, guys. So answer it like as I ask. So, oh, you guys did not. Okay, fine. So you guys did not come to this finally, right? Okay, my bad. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, fine. So as of now, let me come to this fine. That's fine. Okay. So now in this scenario, guys, in this scenario, I want you guys can unmute yourself and let me know if there is no exception. Okay, if there is no exception, what is the flow? Fast, guys. We need to cover many things.
1 2 3 5.
1 2 3 5, and also you should also say what codes it will run, and whether it will be a normal termination or abnormal termination. That is important. Two things. So now tell me.
Normal termination.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 5, and normal termination. Okay. So second thing, if an exception, see, I'll just write like this. Okay, exception rising at statement 2, exception at statement 2. Okay, and you have corresponding except block. Okay, you have corresponding except block. Okay, for example, Sirisha, can you say this? You got an exception. Sorry, yeah. So you got an exception at statement 2. Okay, and there is a corresponding except block. In that case, what it will, no, tell me what lines it will, what all statements will be executed, and whether it will be any normal or abnormal. That's the question.
S1, S4, S5, normal termination.
Okay, 1, 4, 5, normal termination. Okay, perfect. So now, Meghana, if at all an exception is arising at statement 2, okay, if exception is arising at statement 2, but there is no corresponding exception except block. Now,
S1 error and abnormal termination.
okay, perfect. So S1 and abnormal termination. Okay. Now, if at all you have an exception at S4, okay, then anyone, Karthik? If at all you have exception at S4, then
Exception at S4.
yeah, because
No, it won't even enter into S4, right? If in case in try, if it is everything is perfect, then it will not enter into S4. It will bypass and it will print S5.
correct. But if at all you are facing an exception at, let's say, S3, then it will enter except block, this block, right?
Yes,
If at all
yes.
you have an exception over here also, then
Then it will end into abnormal.
correct. So it will end into that. That is possible. You can write.
Yeah,
In except block, yeah, I'll tell you. So in except block also, then you can get exceptions, because as I said, you can write anything in except block, right? So
Yes.
we are printing something, but if you want to execute some code, okay, technically you can write something over here.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
if at all an exception happens here, then nobody can handle it. Okay.
Yes.
So try except is there to handle try issues, but nobody is there to handle except issues. Okay. If at all exception happens in except block, then it is always abnormal termination. Clear, guys?
The third one,
Third
only
one,
S1
okay.
will print, or S5 is also included in abnormal termination of
No,
S2.
no, see, S2 error happened here. Ikkada error vachindi.
Yes.
But there is no corresponding except block. Ante
Yes.
there is nobody to handle this. So obviously as we have shown, Python will throw the error to us and it will stop.
Yes, yes, correct. Yeah,
Complete
only it
flow
will
will
print
stop.
S1. Yeah. Yes.
Whatever you write, the complete flow will stop. Okay, nothing gets executed after this.
Yeah.
So that's why just S1 and exception happened at S2. So there is no corresponding except block. So abnormal termination, program stop. So only S1 abnormal termination. Okay,
Yes.
clear? So I hope this is clear. Okay, so now fine. So now let's go over here and let's see a few things. Okay, so as I said, yeah, so let's say you are having this, so you can have the exception even in the except block also. For example, in this except block, I'm just printing zero error. Okay, I'm just printing zero error. Okay, so for example, yeah, I will show here. See, I'm having zero error, so you're having zero division error, so everything is fine. Even though you are having error, zero division error, you are handling it in the except block and it's everything is fine. Okay, but in case in this except block, this is just like an if else, not similar exactly, but just like if you want to compare, it's like if else block. So you will write some code in if block, And you can also write some code in else block also, right? Similarly, here I'm writing some code in try block. Okay, if the exception happens, it will enter this here. Instead of writing only print statement, here also you can write something. Okay, here also you can write something. Okay, for example, just I'm trying to write here also 10 by 0. Okay, so now what happens? Now here the exception occurs, zero division error occurs. You have a corresponding except block. It will try to enter here. It will print zero error. But here this line is an exception, and this exception is in the except block, and nobody is there to handle it. So this will terminate abnormally. Okay. So now if I print this, as you can see, here you got exception. So that's why I did not print this directly from here. Okay, directly from here, it went here. It entered here, but it printed this. Okay, good. But it could not handle this. That's why it ended. Okay, clear. But as you can see here, it is saying there are two zero division errors. One is at the line number 2. That means here, line number 2, there is a zero division error. Okay, but it is able to handle that. How it is saying, see, during handling of above exception, another exception occurred. That means this exception is handled. 10 by 0 is handled. Perfect. So I entered here. Everything is fine. But during handling, I got one more error, 10 by 0. This I cannot handle. So this person died. Okay. So that's why it is not able to print this next. Okay. So if an exception occurs in except block, okay, if an exception occurs in except block, it is always abnormal. Okay. So now you can simply think you have try block, you have except block. Okay. You have try block, you have except block. Okay. So if an exception occurs in except block, it is always abnormal termination. Okay. But if an exception occurs in try block, if it is handled, then normal termination. But here also, if it is not handled, then you here also abnormal termination. Okay. But here it is always abnormal termination. Okay. Clear. So I hope this is clear, guys. Okay. So now there are few things. Okay. So here the concepts are simple, but you will have like few more combinations or points to remember. Just the rules and regulations. That's it. Okay. The concept will be simple. Okay. Now let's try to understand few things. Okay. So fine. So let me note down some show some points. Okay. First thing is, see guys, first thing, within a try block, okay, within try block, if an exception occurs, okay, which occurs, the rest of try block won't get executed. Okay, won't get executed even if exception is handled. Okay, see, let me show you this. Okay, see, each point we will see, we'll discuss, and we will see an example so that later you can answer a few questions. Okay, see what I'm saying, within try block, if an exception occurs, the rest of the try block won't get executed even if the exception is handled. So that's an important point. See, that means, see, let me take this example. Okay, so let me put it over here. So what I'm saying, let me put it as 0. Okay, so what I'm saying, if an exception occurs in try block and if the exception is handled, okay, even if it is handled, the rest of the try block code won't get executed. That means, let's say you are having a try block and here I'm getting zero division error and I'm able to handle it over here. Okay, I'm able to handle it over here. Okay, but as you can see, the exception occurred here. Okay, the meaning of this point is exception occurred here. It is, we are able to handle over here. It is printing this, but this hello did not print. The hello did not print. Agree? So that means, you just in case if you are thinking like the control from here will go here, and after handling of this exception, the remaining try block code will run, then you are wrong. Okay, so even though if at all the exception is occurring, so it will jump from here to the except block, and even if it is handled, okay, here we are perfectly handling, but still the remaining part of the try block, whatever you write in the remaining block, that are all skipped because the control has already moved away from the try block. Don't think after handling the exception, okay, everything is fine, it will come back and execute the remaining parts in some for loop or some way. If don't think in that manner. Okay, if an exception is occurred, it's directly going out and the flow continues, no coming back. Is it clear, guys, what I'm trying to convey? No, it's not clear.
That's clear.
Yeah. So as you can see, even if you write more statements also, these are all get skipped because exception occur here. But if the exception occurs somewhere over here, so after hello, if the exception is occurring, okay, if after hello exception is occurring, then hello gets printed and exception is occurring here. So that's why these two statements gets bypassed, because after printing this exception went here. And after that, next will anyhow print. Okay. That's one point you need to remember. So the within try block, if the exception occurs, the rest of the try block won't get executed, even if the exception is handled. So that's the important point. Okay. So as I said, as we have seen, in addition to try block, even we can get exceptions in except block also. Okay. Except block also. Then as I said, if we get exception in exception other than try block, okay, whatever it may be, okay, if we get an exception other than try block, then always it is an abnormal termination. Okay, these are three important points. The remaining part of the code gets skipped in the try block. In addition to try block, you can get exceptions in except block also, or in, let's say, we will have one more block called as finally. Okay, you can get in there also. But if at all you are getting exception other than try block, nobody is there to handle that. It is always going to print abnormal termination. Okay, fine. So now what we are going to do, let's see a try with multiple except blocks. Okay, let's see a try with multiple except blocks. Okay, so yeah, so if you see, yeah, so okay, we have written the same point. Sorry. Yeah. So one more point is the specific except block can handle only that particular exception. So in the starting of today's class, I told you, right? If you are writing a specific except block, that means if you're writing a zero division except block, it can handle only zero division. Okay, it cannot handle other exceptions. Okay, so one more important point is, next point is, a single try block can have multiple except blocks. Okay, like this, a single try, it can have multiple except block. Okay, because I don't know what type of exception I might get. So just to be on safe side, I will write 3-4 exceptions. Nobody's stopping. Okay, so sometimes, because I'm writing this, I'm just asking the input. One guy can give me zero division error, one guy can give me type error, one guy can be value error. I don't know the mode of the user or the consumer. He can try to give any issues. So I should be able to handle all type of exceptions, right? So that's why for the single try block, I'm saying, hey, try this. If you get an exception, will this exception work? Okay, use that. No, will this exception work? Use that. Okay, like that you are able to have a backup plan. Okay, so here the concept is single try block can have what? Multiple except blocks. Okay, so now here you are having one zero division error, here you are having some what? Value error. Okay, so now if I run this, okay, see here, I am trying to ask two numbers, A and B. So 10 is one number I'm asking and 100 is one number. Okay, here what happened? Of everything is fine. 10 100 print A by 10 0.1, everything is perfect, no exceptions. When there is no exception, no need to enter either this or this. Okay, first one is happy case, happy, everyone is happy. Okay, but now in the second scenario, if you see, I'm giving some 100, and in the B, if I give 0, now what is this error? This is a zero division error. Okay, this is a zero division error. Okay, so where it will enter here. Okay, so just to show you, I would like to show you how it will match. This means this is the same thing as this, guys. So for example, if I just give 10 by 0, if I enter, see guys, I'm getting error, right? Zero division error. The same thing we will write here. Okay, just if you guys do not observe, so how it will match this, how it will know means, normally if you print anything 10 by 0, you will get error, right? It is showing zero division error. Okay, so this we have written as another class, another exception class. So same thing you should write over here. Okay, the error, it's a class. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. Okay, so now I am printing 10 by 0, 100 and 0. Okay, so it got 0 division error. So you have something to handle that. So that's why it is able to enter here, and it is printing only this. Okay, this gets skipped because there is no value error. Okay, clear? Now if I enter some 100 and if I enter some 10, okay, now what's happening? Now this is a value error. Okay, this is a value error. So now that's why what's happening? So it is saying, hey, it is here you got some value error. So obviously it will not enter 0 division error. Okay, this gets skipped. The flow will go to value error, value error is getting matched and provide only int value. It is printing that. Okay, so since because based upon the inputs you are receiving on over here, you don't know what type of inputs you can receive. Any type of exception can occur. So that's why you are handling through multiple exceptions. Okay, so just to show you, see here what's happening here. As I said, 10. What's happening? You are getting some name error. Okay, and if I give some 10, I got some type error. Okay, so similarly, for example, as I said, okay, let me give some 100 and I'm giving some 10. Provide int only. Okay, so it cannot divide by what? Integer by string. Okay, so now if at all you don't have this, okay, now this is a general error. Now this is a general, it becomes a what? It becomes a general except block. Okay, 100 and what? If I give some hello, okay, so it is going into the by default general exception. Okay, it is going by default into the general exception block. Okay, so if you are able to handle it with a specific exception, that's fine. But if you don't know what type of exception, you know only one or two types of exceptions and other exceptions you don't know, then you can go for a general exception. That means if at all, if it is matching with any of this exception, it will enter. Else it will go for what? It will go for the general exception. Okay, or it's called default exception. Okay, better way is to call it as default exception. Okay, so is this clear, guys? Like one try block can have multiple exceptions. Is this concept clear? Small concept. Any doubts over here?
Clear, Santosh.
Clear, right? Okay. So now one more thing here is when you are using multiple exceptions, the order is important, guys. The order of multiple exceptions is important. Okay, as Python always considers top to bottom. That means what? See, here I am entering two things. Okay, here if you see, I'm entering 100, A and 0. So A and 0, I'm printing A and B. So here is an exception. What exception is this, guys?
Arithmetic exception.
Yeah, so initially it's 100 by 0 is what? Is it not 0 division error? Huh?
0 division error.
0 division error. But 0 division error is part of what? Arithmetic error.
Yes.
Right? So as I let me show you. Okay, so as you can see here, yeah, as you can see here, 0 division error is part of what? Is part of this arithmetic error. Okay, so arithmetic error can also handle this. 0 division can also handle this. Okay, so that's why the order is important. So if you write any one of these at the top, so if it is able to handle that, it will pick up that. Okay, so that's why. Oh, see, I have read the kernel issue. Yeah, so now I'm saying 100 0. See, 100 0, it got an error. Okay, it got an error. What error it got some 0 division error. Okay, it got the error is 0 division error, because if I print 100 by 0, the error you get is 0 division error. But while checking all the except classes, first it will check this one. Okay, so initially it got arithmetic error. Can arithmetic error handle this? Yes, it can handle this, because inside arithmetic error only we have zero division error, right? Inside arithmetic only we have a zero division error. So if zero division error is able to handle this, that means indirectly arithmetic error is able to handle this. Okay, so that's why, guys, did you understand this logic? See, all errors, see, arithmetic handle this error can handle zero division, floating, and also overflow, correct? But zero might not be able to handle floating. Floating might not be able to handle overflow. All these are independent. Okay, this can handle only zero. This can handle only zero. Floating. This can handle overflow. But arithmetic can handle all three of these. Okay, that's why these are all subclasses of arithmetic class. Okay. Similarly, here also when it sees the zero division error and it sees arithmetic error, it will understand. Okay, arithmetic is a super class of this, right? So obviously it will enter this and it will print arithmetic error. Okay, because the error is handled. Now it will skip this. Clear, guys? That's why the order is important. Okay, but here if you observe, I will try to put this over here. Okay, now first what it will see, first it will see zero division error. Okay, and we got here zero division error and we are getting zero division error class. Obviously it will think, okay, it was able to handle. So if the first place itself it is able to handle, so obviously it will enter it. Okay, it is entering it over here and it is printing zero division error. Okay, so if I print this 100 0, as you can see, you got zero division error. Okay, clear? But if I write something like this, if I write this except block over here, it's okay. If I write except block over here, so I am printing this one. Now if I give 100 and 0, so you got zero division error. Okay, here you got zero division error. Okay, initially what is their value error? So will value error handle zero division error? No. So obviously it should not enter here. After that it is saying zero division error. Okay, this can handle. Okay, as you can see, you got zero division error because initially it has seen this value error, but it did not enter because it know that value error. See, the where is value error? Value error is, yeah, value error is over here. Okay, so this cannot handle this zero division error. Okay, only the actual class or its parent class, the super class, can handle it. Okay, so that's why it did not enter the value error. Okay, that's why it entered over here. Okay, so if you write, I'm just showing again. So if you write arithmetic error in the first place, it will give you arithmetic error 100 0, you got arithmetic error. Okay, because it will think it will handle this. Okay, this is how you can write multiple except blocks for the same try block. Is this clear, guys? Everyone? Huh?
Yes.
Any confusions? Anyone? Any confusions, or am I going fast? Let me know, guys. Honestly.
No, sir, clear.
Clear, right? Okay. So now, as I said, fine. So as I said, you can have a default exception block also. So just if I show you, yeah. So here, if you see, yeah, this is single except block can handle multiple except blocks. Okay, fine. So we'll see this. So as I said, single except block can also handle multiple exceptions. Okay, see here, single try block. Here what we have studied, single try block can have multiple except blocks, except block 1, except block 2. Okay, we can have multiple except blocks. Okay, that is concept over here. Okay, next concept is you are having a try block. Okay, instead of writing multiple except blocks, a single except block can also handle multiple exceptions. Okay, you can write over here itself. Okay, so as you can see here, there is try block. Okay, there is except block. So instead of writing except zero division error, except value error, a single except block can itself handle multiple except blocks. Okay, so now what I am doing, so try block except. So here I am also, you can also pass the value what error I'm getting, because the reason here is you are having your individual error. Okay, you are having individual exceptions. Okay, so you will exactly know whether it is entering this or whether it is entering this, because it will enter any one of these, right? Obviously because you have separate except blocks, you will definitely know which way where the error is happening, because it is printing exactly arithmetic error. If it is zero, it's printing zero division error. Okay, that's very clear and crystal clear. Okay, but here you can write all the except blocks, you can optimize the code and you can write multiple exceptions in single except block. Okay, that is also fine. But just to know what type of error actually occurred, right? So you can print that error as a message. Okay, as message you can take it, and that message you can put it over here. Okay, so for example, I'm trying to enter, I'm saying 100 and 0. Okay, I'm saying 100 and 0. So now if you see, I got an error over here. Okay, some exception has raised, and it is a normal termination because you cannot see error. It's a perfectly, we were able to handle exception. Okay, normal termination, that does not mean, very important, normal termination does not mean we did not get any exception. It only means even though you got exception, you are able to successfully handle it. Okay, so don't misunderstand that normal termination means there are no exceptions. No, you can have exceptions. That is the reason we are here to handle using try except. You can have exceptions, but if you're able to handle that, then it's called normal exception. Okay, fine. So here a by b, I gave 100 0. Obviously you got some exception, zero division error exception. So it is coming over here, it is checking the except block. There are multiple exceptions it can handle. Okay, obviously zero division error is there. Okay, it is there. But if at all we are not printing this, so obviously you don't know what type of error it is able to handle, but you don't know what type of error it was, right? For example, let me see if we can, is this mandatory or not? Okay. Yeah, see, if I don't write this, okay, if I don't write this, then exception is handled, but you don't know what was the exception, whether it is a zero division error or value error. Okay, if I just write an exception occurred, okay, and I'm giving 100, I'm giving 0. Someone printed something. Sorry, is there any exception handling library? Then we can directly import instead of writing error in except block. What is this? If there are any exceptions handling library, then we can directly import instead of writing error. No, Sirisha, as of now, you don't have any direct imports which you can directly, because it depends, right? What type of exceptions you will get. So based upon that, you should handle, but you don't have a single library where you can directly import and it will handle all the exceptions by itself. Okay, but if at all you come across anything, you can let me know. But as per my knowledge, I have seen, right? So you don't have a direct library which can handle the exceptions itself. Okay, but that's a good question actually. Right. So instead of writing multiple.
Instead of writing multiple exception errors in the except block, we can directly import. No, sir. That's the reason I'm asking.
Okay, this one, right? Okay, I agree. Fine. So, but there are no like multiple. Sorry, there is no imports related to exceptions actually. Fine. So coming back here. So if at all, see, if at all I'm trying to 100 and 0, if I print that, what I'm getting, I'm just able to see an exception occurred. I don't know what exception occurred. I don't know, right? So just to have a proper communication, you can take that as message, and here you can print that message. Okay. So as you can see, I'm getting an exception occurred, and that is zero division error. So clearly you can understand, okay, hey, it was due to zero division error. Okay, you are printing that message. Or else if you enter some, okay, so or else if you enter some another, let's say I'm entering 10, so obviously it is an exception occurred, that is a value error. Okay, so that means you cannot invalid literal for int with base 10. Okay, so this is different error. Okay, both of them are able to handle by this only, but you can see it's a different error. Okay, so no matter if I do so if I just remove this, yeah, now you see, you'll understand better. Now what I have done, I have removed the int over here. So this a will be, I'm doing typecasting, so this will become int 100, right? Now for this I removed int, so this is only normal. Normal means what is the data type, guys? What is the data type? Anybody can?
String.
String. Okay, so now this first 100 is int 100, second 100 is string 100, so I cannot divide. So, but what is the error? It's a type error. Okay, the data type error. So that's why it is saying unsupported operand for intention. This is error actually. Okay, but is there any inbuilt exception we have already written to handle type error? No, because we are able to handle only zero division and value error. So that's why if the error is reaching us, see this error is reaching us, we are able to see. So this is an abnormal termination because we did not handle the exception. Clear, guys? But if at all you write this type error, take this and put it over here. Okay. And now see, you got this error unsupported. Now, if you give the same 100, I'm giving 100 and 100. See, now it is able to handle this because the type error which you got here, it is matching over here. So it is saying, thinking, okay, this except can handle this. Why I should not use this? It will enter here. It is printing the exception occurred, and the same error which you got now, it is showing you. Okay, this is not breaking the flow. It is simply showing you. This is normal termination. This is perfect handling of exception. Okay, there is no flow breaking. Okay, so if you remove this, then you will get error if at all that exception occurred. Okay, guys, fine.
So, Santosh,
Yeah.
I'm adding to that question.
Mhm.
So, what is the parent class for this all zero division exception value error? Can you please open that base exception, right?
Mhm.
And exception class, right?
Correct.
So, I'm hoping like instead of writing arithmetic division, everything, I think we can write the directly exception.
Okay, I think. Yeah, it's working.
Yes. So, but this is not good way of writing programming language. That's why we'll use.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think you can go for. You can write base exception also for that matter.
Yeah.
This
So
base exception is there, right? So if you write this, it will handle all this, whatever you write,
everything.
but you don't know
Yes.
what exception happening inside. Okay, still you can print this, but still you can print this. You will know from here. Okay, but you'll not get good grip on that, how to handle exceptions.
Yes, Santosh. Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because since everything is coming from this base exception, you can directly write, right? But you will not get an idea like individually how you are able to handle. Okay, if base exception
Yes.
can handle everything, but if you are able to drill down to this specific error, then you will know like what type of error you are able to get. But otherwise, as you're saying, technically, whatever be the case, whatever, whether it is file handling, whether it is a data type error, zero division error, or index error, anything is class of this base exception, you can simply write base exception. That works.
Yes.
That should work. Okay, but good point, Karthik, thanks. Yeah, if we use type of message, it will write exception. Oh, this type sorry.
Okay.
Inbuilt,
Print type of message. I think
type
it will give
inbuilt.
string, I guess. Type error. Okay.
It is
Type
give
error.
that specific class, that specific error. So because when I gave 100 by 0, okay, you are getting type error. For example, if I give if I put it as int, if I give as int, okay, so see, now that went into zero division error, right? So this is also int, this is also int, but it actually failed because of which specific subclass. So from this base exception, okay, it went into exception. From this zero arithmetic, then it ended up here. So this zero division error which we are seeing over here. Okay, ultimately what is handling is the zero division error, right? So
Yes.
that you are seeing that type. Okay, so similarly, if you give 100 and 10, okay, so you got value error. Okay, so ultimately it's the value error where you are having, yeah, value error is the one which has handled. Okay, from exception, base exception, value error.
But Sirisha, just adding to that, we can use but two things. One is not good way of writing programming. And also inside it will check like the flow is there, right? Base exception, then arithmetic exception. So we don't know, but inside it's checking 4 times, like exception, then base exception, arithmetic, then zero division. It's like linking to 4. In a this is not correct way of optimizing programming. CPU will check, so it will take some time, even that is milliseconds. So in that case, if we write directly zero division, it will check that. If it is yes, then it will goes. So it's just checking one time. So that is also matter. Here it is not, but in real time.
Yes.
Got it. It will increase the complexity in case if we use a DSF like questions.
Not complexity, time. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. So good guys. Good points actually. Fine. So that is regarding the exception. Okay. Fine. Shall we proceed? Okay. So now we have the default except block, right? So if at all, let's say you are having yeah, so let's say you are having this. Meghana, you are good, right? You are good with a concept. Any doubts from your side?
Yes, sir, I'm clear.
Okay, perfect. See, now see, you're having a try block, you're having 2 except blocks, but here see the scenario. Okay, so you're having try block. So what I'm doing, I'm writing only value error. That means it can handle only value error. So, but what I will do, I'll give 100 and 0 I will give. Okay, now it's a 0 division error. So it will go where? It will go into default except. Okay, because if at all the corresponding except block, specific except block is not working, so it will, everything other than that will go into default except block. Okay, that is simple. Okay, but the only thing here is the default except block should always be at the last. Okay, because if you try to put it over here and try to execute, it will say, hey, default except block must be last. Okay, that's one point you should always remember. Okay, because sometimes you don't know what type of except you might get, right? You don't know what type of except you might get. You can handle, you can write 2 or 3 excepts, but still if you're getting some unknown error. Okay, because what happens is most of the time we take once we are writing, right? So we will be thinking only from our perspective. We will say, hey, we might get only 0 division or floating error, otherwise there is no other issues. But you don't know, technically anything can happen, right? Suddenly if due to some user mistake it is going into type error. Okay, but you're not prepared for that, and you do not handle that. Okay, so that's the reason, to avoid these pitholes, right? So always you should have a default exception, so that you don't know, right? Even though you are confident, sometimes you might get some unexpected exception. Okay, that's why to handle that you should always have a default exception. Okay, technically. So but only point is the default exception should always be at the last. Okay, you should write all specific exceptions, and after that you should come for the default exception. Okay, clear? So now it works. Okay, now it works. Okay, fine. So now coming to finally block. Okay, so you have one more block, new block getting introduced, that is called as finally block, right? So but now why finally? Because see, as we can see, first we'll see this. We can get exception in try block, so there is no guarantee. Okay, see, we are having what is this, the logic you try to understand. You are having some code, you're having except, you're having some code. Okay, so here the logic here is, if I want to execute a particular line, always, okay, 100% for sure, I want to make sure that my particular line of code is executed every time. Okay, but the problem here is, first case, if at all I write it in the try block, somewhere over here, okay, then chances are that there might be exceptions happening in try block, and the remaining part of the code is getting skipped. Okay, so there is no guarantee in try block. Okay, Try block is there to get some exceptions. So there is no guarantee that this all the lines of the code will get executed, because I've shown you that point, right? In try block, even if the exception is handled, the remaining part of the lines get skipped. I hope you remember that. Okay, even if you're handling, if exception is occurring here, even if the flow is coming over here, the flow will again continue, it will not come back. All these lines will be skipped. Okay, so my goal here is I want a particular line to get executed. So I cannot write it in the try block because there is no guarantee that it gets executed. Second thing is, if at all I try to write it that in some except block, if I try to write in except block, there is also no guarantee that every time the flow will come to except block. Okay, there is no guarantee that every time the flow will come to except block, because if everything is fine and happy in try block, everything is happy, then why it will enter except block? It will directly go to next. So if I try to write my line of code or in the except block, it will not work, because if no exceptions, it will not enter. But even if there is exception also, even if let's say some exception, and if you don't have that corresponding except block, okay, so let's say you are not writing a general except block, but you are writing only that corresponding except block, fine, then also it will not enter. So even if there is no exception block also, my line of this is not getting accepted. And even there is an exception, but if this is not the specific except block, sorry, if this is not the required except block, then also it will not enter, right? So in except block also, try also no guarantee. In except block also, there is no guarantee that always my code will get executed. Okay, so if you don't have, so that's why if you see here, we cannot get exception in try block, so there is no guarantee. Sorry, we can get exception in try block. Okay, so if exception happens, though, the remaining code gets skipped. And we might not have corresponding except block, or even if the corresponding except block is happening, if there is no exception also, the except block don't get triggered. Clear? So that's why you have something called as finally. Okay, finally. Now finally gets executed always and always if the exception is handled, if the exception is not handled, if it is a normal termination, if it is an abnormal termination, in every case, finally will always be running. Okay, so you have try. So now this is a complete structure. Try statements, except statements. You have finally statements. Okay, perfect. So the flow is C, starting with try. Okay, see, listen my words carefully. So starting with try. Okay, it is starting. Now no exception. No exception means what? It will skip this exception. Then finally will execute. Okay, second case. Starting with try, exception occurred, and you have the corresponding except block. So obviously it will enter except block. Then after that, finally. Okay, next. Try is executing, exception occurred, but there is no corresponding except block. Okay, there is no corresponding except block. Then also it will skip this except block. Then finally. Okay, so as you can see, finally gets executed here also, here also, here also. Okay, now exception sometimes is executing, sometimes it's not executing. Okay, try also here, as I said, if at all you are getting an exception over here, line number 1, line number 2 and 3 get skipped, right? So a part of this line gets skipped is because from here it will come over here. So some part of the try may not be executed. Sometimes the whole except might not get executed, but always and always finally will get executed. Finally. Okay. Is the theory part clear, guys? Are you able to understand? Finally, simple concept.
It's clear.
Okay, fine. So perfect. So now what happens over here is, to just summarize, you will write, see what if it is a risky code, you will write normally in the try block. To handle the exception, the handling code, you'll write in the except block. And the cleanup code, normal cleanup code is the code which you want to definitely trigger. Definitely this should execute, right? That is you will write it in the finally block. And the excellent specialty of the final block is it gets executed always, whether exception raised, not raised, handled, not handled, abnormal termination, normal termination, any case, it doesn't care. It will just trigger. Okay. So now see here, as I was showing you. So see here, print try 10/0. It's a first time normal execution. So normal execution is what's happening. Try it is printing 10/10 is what 1. So it is printing try 10/10. And then what? In finally it is printing finally again. Okay. So just to show you, I'll just write I am finally. Okay. Let me remove this. Okay. So now see, I'm printing 10/10. Okay. Clear. But now if I handle, if I have some what, so let me, as of now, let me just go by zero division. Okay. So now I'm having what? So initially it's a happy case. That's why you can see try 10/10 is 1. I'm finally. Okay. Second case is what? If I just, if I do it as 0, if I do it as 0, then what? Then exception is first try will execute. So try, then exception is occurring here. What is this error? Zero division error. So it will enter here. It will print what? Except. Okay. So let me write, yeah. Okay, it will print except, then again it will print finally. Okay, so it will print I am try, I am except, I am finally. Okay, so now you can see I am try, I am except, I am finally. Okay, observe finally is getting executed always. Initially happy case. Second thing is also happy case, but here you got exception and that is also handled. Okay, clear. Now if we have something called as I'm trying to divide it by some 10. Okay, now it's an error. It's not a zero division error. It's some name error or value error. So it will print try. Error happened over here. Error happened over here, right? And it is what? Is it a normal termination or abnormal termination? Can anyone?
Abnormal.
Abnormal, because you don't have anything to handle this. This is not a zero division. This is some what? Let's say it's a value error. Okay, you don't have any type exception to handle that. Okay, so that's why it will not enter here. It will not enter here, but the finally should be running. Okay, as you can see, I am try. It is printing. Exception occurred here. There is no corresponding except block to handle. So this is skipped, but finally it is printing. Even though it is terminating abnormally, that is important point. This is not a normal termination. This is abnormal termination. Why? Because error is reaching us. We are able to see the error. The whole point of exception handle failed to handle exception and not to break the flow. That failed, but that's fine. Still, you are able to print the finally. Okay, so that's finally will execute. 3 cases I have shown. Normal execution, that means perfect flow. Exception handled, it printing. Exception not handled, also printing. Exception handled is normal termination, it's printing. Exception not handled, abnormal termination is also, it is printing finally. Clear, guys? We'll see examples, don't worry, regarding the finally, but is the basic, I mean, say the concept technical code clear? Okay, so are you guys going to college today? Do you have like 5 to 10 minutes time? We'll see a small use case so that you'll have more understanding on this case. Okay, both of you, Megan and Sirisha.
Yes, I'm going to college.
Oh, okay. Yeah, going to college, but do you have more 10 minutes or 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes of time? Or is it getting late? No, you can be honest. That's fine. I'm just asking.
We can continue tomorrow.
Okay, okay, fine. Fine. So I hope the concept is clear. So tomorrow we have a few scenarios. So where we are going to see some scenarios how you can handle try except finally, because the try except finally is the complete picture. So try is one part, except is one block, but try except finally is the complete picture. So tomorrow we are going to see a few examples and few scenarios mainly, and then we have something called as nested try except finally, and there also you have few scenarios. And yeah, I'll show you like what all combinations you can use tomorrow. Okay. So tell me one thing. Tomorrow also you have college. Tomorrow also are you going?
No, sir.
Tomorrow you are not going, right? Sirisha, what about you?
So depending on the scenario in college.
Huh? What? I didn't get you. No, yes or no? Network issue? Okay, fine. So fine. Tomorrow we can continue for like 1.5 hour. Don't know, sir. Okay, fine. So fine. Tomorrow we'll try to continue for like 1 hour to 1 hour 15-20 minutes, so that we'll conclude different scenarios, and we'll try to finish the try except block this week, so that on Monday the plan is to cover the file handling, and Tuesday decorator, Wednesday iterator, and Thursday assertions and pickling. I'll show you pickling, which is helpful in the machine learning. And then if there are any additional topics which I feel important, we can cover that. Okay. So next week we'll try to conclude the Python, and we are going to enter the stats. Okay. Cool. That's all for today. So hope you understood and enjoyed the class. So tomorrow we'll try to meet again sharp at 6:30. So don't miss the class tomorrow, guys. As we said, we are going to meet on Saturday also. So fine. Let's meet tomorrow, same time, same link. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Yes, sir. Bye.